Ahoy everyone, welcome back to Hard Not Life Sailing. In today's video, we do some essential maintenance tasks. Join us as we scrub away the grime from the bilge to ensure our pumps work effectively and not pollute the ocean and reduce the bilge stink. But that's not all. Get ready to witness the transformation as we install a new swim platform. And to add to that extra touch of elegance, we're decking it out with Teak, and who better to guide us through this process than our resident expert Mike? He'll be sharing his tips and tricks for installing Teak like a pro. Enjoy this video!
Alright, hello everyone. So while we wait for this relentless rain to end, I'm going to clean our bilge. Our transmission will be going in soon. We're just waiting for a fabricated transmission cooler to be made. It should be ready to pick up soon. So I took this long PVC pipe. There's dozens and dozens of these here. This is what they cover boats up with. They make a frame out of the PVC and then they cover it with shrink wrap. So I'm going to go down into my bilge, which is way down there. I'll get a light in a minute. But for now, I'm going to show you I'm hooking up this long PVC pipe to that flexible pipe and then to the shop vac with just the foam filter in it, so I can suck up everything. I don't want to use the shop vac hose because it'll just be ruined. There's so much grime down there. I washed it out with dish soap as best I could, but there's probably 20 years of crap down there. So this is how we're going to do it. This is the setup I got. That's going down into our bilge. And that fit perfectly on here. I just warmed it up with the heat gun a little bit, and then that goes to the inlet nozzle, and that actually fit perfectly too, so I really lucked out here. So I'm gonna get this started, but I just want to show you what it looks like down here in case nobody's seen the in-keel bilge. So that's what's down there, and there's quite a few inches of crap. So we're going to try to suck that all out. This rope here is just what I use for taking out the transmission. I hooked that to a pulley so I can hoist it up and then lift it out. So I'm not breaking my back bending inside there to pull it out. And the same way, left it there so I can get it back in easily. Alright, I don't know if you can see that, but that is a clean bilge down there. Washed it out with pretty much boiling water and soap to break up all the grease, and vacuumed up a whole bag of particles, chunks, pieces of wood, hose clamps, you name it. We found it down there. I used a stick here to shift things around because the hose I had from the vacuum was a little bit big to get into the corners, so I stirred it up with that stick and vacuumed it all out, and it is a clean bilge now. Unfortunately, I stained our carpet, but this carpet's getting tossed anyways. It's pretty old. The back of our boat on the inside's torn right off. This is where we normally sleep. Won't be sleeping there for a while. Piles and piles of tools on our midway settees. All the panels are torn off. Alright, we're on the stern of Nutlife, and this is our swim platform. I'm proud to say this was my own design. This is a folding swim platform. I'll try to show you how this works. So in order to lock it down in place, got these pins. Just pull the two pins out on either side, and the whole thing will come up like this, and then just tie off on the top of the boat. And what this does is when we're lowering the dinghy from the davits now, the dinghy will project away from the boat because of these supports and land in the water rather than landing on top of our swim platform. That's about it. We bought some teak today. If you ever need to buy teak, Trinidad is the place to do it. All of the teak to cover this deck was 660 TT, so it's about $120 for enough teak to cover this whole platform. And to put that in comparison of strangely priced things, the carriage bolts, just 1/4 inch by 1 inch carriage bolts I bought to fasten these, cost almost the same amount as all of the teak, because they grow teak here, but they don't make carriage bolts here. The carriage bolts were just over 500 TT, which is about $100 just for the bolts. But all of this teak only cost 120. So today I'm going to be fastening these onto the platform. They're not cut to length or shaped. They've just been planed and cut to width. Get all even widths. It looks like some of them were still rough cut on the bottom, so that's fine. Nobody will ever see that because you don't really get underneath here. Our water line is right there, so only when you're swimming can you look up and see this. But this is the design we got. So when the platform comes down, it rests on here, which is supporting it. And what they're going to be adding to this is a cupped piece here so that this always lines up with. So this post always lines up with this post, and it'll also support it. So when you step, if you step right in the middle here, it's not going to go down because it's braced. So that's the small change they're going to be making to it next week when they come back with our davits. What I'm doing here is I'm clamping this board on 2 inches past where I want it. Because of the curve of the boat, I can't scribe this directly over top of this. I measured 2 inches over and put a mark on the inside, clamped it down, did the same on both sides. And then what I'm going to use is a scribing tool, and I'm going to follow along this pole and mark out my curvature. It's fairly simple. You don't need a special scribing tool. You could just use a compass. If you don't have a compass, you could use a 2-inch block of wood and just hold a pencil along it. So there's many ways to do that. This is the way I'm doing it. And that'll give me the curvature. It might be just a little bit big, but if it's a little bit big, that's good, because then I'll be able to get it in place and scribe it more carefully. My double checking tells me it's maybe an 1/8 of an inch or so oversized, but that's good for a first cut. I just want to get it in place over top of the bars, and then I can do a final scribe, making sure that this wood's also straight to the bar. So underneath here, the arch is pretty good, but for some reason it got closer here. May have changed the angle a little bit of the scribe because I had to hold it as square as I could along the railing. But that's okay because we have extra. Like I said, I made it slightly big in case I have to fix these little imperfections. So I'm just going to even that up and run a new scribe line around it. Well, it also could be because the wood was twisted a bit, because it's even on the two ends and not in the middle. So I think because the wood wasn't sitting totally flat on the stainless steel bars, when I ran the scribe line, it came off a bit in the middle here. So I'm just going to fix that up and clean it up. Alright, next up I'm going to do a round over. That's a round over bit, and I think I'm only going to do it on the top. I just broke the edge with sandpaper on the bottom. It'll help it fit between the bars because I'm doing this close fit. And then we'll clean up this top with this. That'll work well. Just going to put some headphones on because that is really loud. Alright, now we're going to see how that fits. This wood is so fresh, you can feel the oils in it with your hands. It almost feels greasy, which is why it lasts so long. Alright, I got this piece fitted now. The piece wasn't long enough to do those little corners. Kind of debating whether I want to fill those in with a little piece in. Alright, I'm up on the platform now, and it's just lightly clamped in place. It's fitting perfectly. Unfortunately, they only had 9-inch planks and I needed 10.5, so we're going to be losing a little corner off there. That'll probably only bug me. I could fill a piece in there, but it's probably just a matter of time before that falls off. I'm still debating it. So I decided I couldn't live with the little corners missing on this first piece. So all I did was cut a little triangle, countersunk some stainless screws in there. I'll put lots of glue, and I'm gonna let that dry overnight and then shape the edges and get it screwed down. So while that glue is drying on these little corners that I added, I'm gonna start laying up these decks now. I don't have much more day left, but we're gonna give this a try. So we're gonna keep it tight here. There's a slight bow to it, so I'm gonna straighten that bow out with the screws. I'm maybe just holding it tight to this first section here and then scribing the angle. Got my scribing tool. I'm gonna keep this tight against the one side. Push this pencil in. There's our first piece. Cut that. Do the same on the other side. Start bolting them down. Alright, that fits good. Gonna clean it up, put a profile on it, and get ready for bolting. Alright, switching this up with some 100. I think 100's enough. You don't want this to be slick. You're going to be walking. Let's take this top side. All right, now we got this in here. It's a great fit. Mark the middle of each spot. Cross member. Want this to look nice from the top with all the bolts lining up. They're going to be covered with dowels or plugs. I still want them to all be lined up. Or even this bar could be not straight. Climbing back down again. Normally you leave gaps between these. Because this wood's so fresh, I know there's going to be shrinkage, so I'm starting off tight to the bars, and then it'll allow it to shrink. Water will easily shed off. It's not going to be airtight or watertight, and there'll be about 1/4 inch gaps between each of these planks. I have a better idea how big the gaps will be once I get my first one locked in here. This is going to take a while. There's no sense you watching. Alright, now that I've got those holes all drilled in the stainless steel, I've drilled out the 1/4 inch in the wood and a 5/8 countersink. So these carriage bolts will sink in there, and then I'm getting 5/8 wood plugs to put over top of that. Then I'll just sand them all smooth when it's done. But what I want to do to make sure that this square head here locks in place well, I'm going to be mixing up a little bit of pre-thickened resin, just putting a dab around the inside of that head and sinking it in. Not bring a hammer. Alright, I've been drilling this for more than about the last day and a half, most of the last 2 days. As soon as this drill bit heats up a bit, I'm doing a very short burst and cooling with the oil. As soon as that metal heats up, it's almost undrillable. So I came up with this, the homemade drill press. So what I did is clamp a little piece of wood underneath, just so that the big clamp has something to go against, because it has to go right underneath the hole. And as I run the drill, see if I can show you. Now I can do super low speed, and with my other hand, that's now holding the camera, I can oil it and tighten up the clamp a little bit. So I just tighten it a little bit, give it some oil, and keep going to avoid the steel from overheating. So drilling this holes is 99% of this work. Cutting these pieces of wood are easy. But I'm not going to film the next 12 hours of drilling holes, so goodbye. Alright, here is the finished product. There's the swim platform done. You filled it with 5/8 plugs. They come in a strip like that. That's the plugs that what's left over were no good because they're split. Sealed them with epoxy. This project is done. You see it hinges here. Pull that pin out, folds up, and then that angled bar there deflects the dinghy out to the water so it never gets hung up on the swim platform. So that project done, and they're coming now to install the davits.
As the sun sets on another productive day in the boatyard, we are feeling a sense of accomplishment. Each project completed brings us one step closer to our ultimate goal, the moment when we will once again splash not life and feel the gentle embrace of the ocean beneath our hull. Thank you so much for watching. See you next week.